All right, next is Dr. Rena Phillip, the Associate Director for Biomarkers and Precision Oncology, the Oncology Center of Excellence at the FDA.
Hard to follow that talk. Thanks to the organizers for inviting me to this meeting. So my talk is, as Dr. Roy said in the beginning, it's different. I'm going to talk about regulatory perspectives. I'm going to talk about the current FDA review framework for the different, the IVDs, the radiological devices, the digital pathology. So I'll go through each individual one. So just to give you, what FDA does. So before even the device gets into the market, there are some exceptions. You'll see that the application is reviewed in FDA, and it's reviewed according to the risk classifications for safety and effectiveness of the device. And if a device is safe and effective, then it enters the market. FDA continues to review ensure safety and effectiveness through, there are different tracking systems for reporting the adverse events, if there are recalls. So the manufacturers are required with some requirements as per their clearance or approval. So the device is reviewed like a total product life cycle. That's how it's called. For the in vitro diagnostics, which the genomics, the proteomics, all the diagnostic tests that you heard, they are reviewed in the Office of Health Technology 7. And so according to CFR, these are like reagents, instruments, systems intended for use in the diagnosis of disease or other conditions. So that's how it's defined. And as like I said, it's reviewed based on the risk, the FDA, the oversight that is needed for the regulation of these devices. So it's a class 1 device if it's a low risk device. And those class 1 devices and class 2, there are some exempt devices. So those are exempt from pre-market review. But class 2 and class 3 devices, they are required to submit an application and with the necessary analytical clinical validation documentation. And so moderate risk devices, those are class 2. The application is called 510K. Or a de novo if it's really brand new, but there is no predicate device, or it's a pre-market application, it's a PMA, and they have to submit the valid scientific evidence, which includes also some inspection at the site. That's the GMP inspection. So examples, some familiar examples, like if it's companion diagnostics, that's a class 3, but if it's a gene expression for risk of breast cancer recurrence, so it's already diagnosed cancer patients, that's reviewed as a class 2. So, you probably heard, how the NGS has revolutionized the personalized genomics in medicine. So, this I wanted just to give you what FDA did in this is, really innovative in terms of how you can actually report out the devices, the manufacturers can report out the class 2 and class 3, this is like there was no precedent for using the literature or the guidelines. So for the tumor profiling claim, they can use the literature or the guidelines to report out level 2 and level 3. So that's called the mutational profiling, but for the CDX, they need the clinical validation. So for radiological devices, again, FDA regulates the manufacturers of the equipment, but there are other regulatory agencies that regulate the use of the devices through recommendations and requirements. There are federal agencies, states, and local agencies, and there are accrediting bodies. They measure the quality of the healthcare organizations. So similar with the IVDs, is the risk-based classification for radiological devices too. So, there are some examples here, like the lowest risk, the ultrasound gel gloves. Those are the class 1. So, but there are lots of class 2 devices in this area, and there are some class 3, which has the highest risk. The example here is the radioactive microsphere stents. And since you're talking a lot about AI, I wanted to show the FDA has a website where it has the definitions and how FDA defines. So there, I've seen some changes from the original ones, but it's this is how it's the current website. An example here is again in the cancer, an imaging system that uses algorithms to provide diagnostic information for malignant melanoma. So that's an example that's in the FDA website. And so AI in digital pathology, because since we are talking about radiology and digital pathology, I thought this is something that you may be interested. So we have not cleared anything with there is one, which is, I can't say really, in prostate cancer, just last year, that was the very first one that we did. And but it's probably not in the diagnosis part, but it's adding information. That's and so it depends on the intended use. How it's used. Whether are you using in addition to the standard of care review, or are you replacing the standard of care? So depending on that, the level of validation that's required varies, and that's where the classification, the class 2 versus class 3 comes in. And so currently, like AI applications are mainly image-based, like using the digital images of the scan glass slides. So in radiology, of course, the image software and the AI learning is used all along the medical imaging chain. And you heard some examples earlier. And there are, this is the website that gives the AI medical devices, and 70% of them are in radiology. So, this website has, it's publicly available. So, and there are lots of resources on, in the radiology, in the draft guidances, the regulations that are also related to, just on the radiological side as well as based on AI. But there are, I think we already heard it, but from as far as FDA is concerned, there are more the challenges, right, in AI-based medical devices, and you need the large, high-quality, well-curated data sets. And we heard about the explainability of these black boxes, and how do you identify and remove the biases, and making sure it's transparent to the users. I mean, FDA is big in transparency. You probably know that whatever we approve, the validation, the test performance is all transparent. So that's the one thing that FDA is very much keen on. I just wanted to bring, maybe people are aware of this, but this was a FDA NIH Joint Leadership Council NGS and radiomics working group that it was prior to COVID and started in November 2018. They were trying to identify the gaps in reference materials for impeding validation. So the use of looking into developing technologies such as AI to support NGS and radiology. And so initial work, when we were having this working group, identified, what are the physical reference samples needed, what sort of data sets are needed, tools, infrastructure, methodology. And there was this workshop. It happened during COVID, and the workshop summary is available. So I thought maybe it's relevant to what we are discussing here. So I wanted to bring this up. And the last, and before that, there are other ongoing efforts. I'm sure a lot of you in the audience are aware of the MDIC somatic reference sample initiatives. These are important. The digital health, AI, ML software, and they have, there is a center of excellence. CDRH has a center of excellence for digital health, and CDRH's strategic priorities also look into promoting AI and ML. And then the NCI Cancer Research Data Commons. So the last, just wanted to also, again, a lot of you probably aware of this, but just in case for those who are not aware of this, there's this Precision FDA. It is a publicly available cloud-based portal. It is, a secure, collaborative, high-performance computing algorithm, and it builds a community of experts around the analysis of biological data sets. So originally, it started with the NGS, but it's now expanded to all the omics, where you can, the experts are engaged in the analysis of diverse data sets. An example that is relevant to this group is the high throughput truthing project that is creating a data set of pathologist annotations for validating artificial intelligence and machine learning computational models that analyze digital scans of pathology slides. So that is just an example, but there are so many different projects that are being hosted in Precision FDA platform. And with that, there is a lot of potential in this field, but there is a lot to do. That's like everybody else was saying earlier. Thank you.